Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the European crossover webinar. And let me see, let me let Irina know that I'm looking on a moment. Okay, once again, welcome to the European crossover webinar. And we have seen the indices pop up. I actually signed into the webinar and looking at some stuff and lost track of time, so bear with me a moment. I do want to see what we have as far as our economic data. Bear with me. Okay, so we did want to get UK average earnings. That came out just at the top of the hour. And then looks like that's going to be it. Bear with me. We do have jobless claims at the at 8:30 Eastern, and New York Empire Manufacturing Index and Philly Fed Index will also be out then. And see if there's anything else here. Capacity utilization and industrial production will also be out today. But as you can see, look, we are moving higher here in the NASDAQ. Look at this strong move back. Took the dip and now we're pressing higher here. You can see here with the S&Ps. Also pressing up here, but not, well, I guess equivalent somewhat to the NASDAQ, because the NASDAQ, we still haven't gone up to the very high, and same thing here with the S&Ps. I just don't think it's not as great with the S&P as we're seeing with the NASDAQ. That's much closer than the S&P's outright high up to 43.84, but we are certainly pushing away higher. One of the markets that we did go and finally get to see to break out yesterday was gold. And we've been going over that with the VWAP off of the March lows, and you can see here that the market was pressing up against that 1818, and that had the market capped. You can see 3 times that challenge, and finally we got above it. And I indicated that if we got a daily close above 1824, which we did, that would open up the door for a move to 1873. We're actually at 1832 this morning. I think we have our bias chart resistance at 1834. Taking a look at FX, we can go and jump into that. We actually have the futures here with cable and the euro. But to avoid any confusion, we're just going to take a look over here on the cash. And we're seeing a little bit of follow-through from yesterday. Yesterday, we saw a nice little turnaround. That was after the PPI release, but had more to do with Powell's, I don't want to say idea, but he's still going to remain accommodative, and that's what he did, going to put in a dent in the dollar. Because here we are, we're seeing inflation higher, but no matter what, it's like the Fed's like, doesn't make any difference. It's all transitory, and we're going to be accommodative. Moving on to the cable, just a little bit lower today. Aussie, same situation. And the yen, we saw a pretty good pullback in the yen. There we go. After Powell put a dent in the market, and boy, did we going to come back. Looking around also, crude oil, we have gone and rolled into the September, but boy, did we see a pretty good pullback in crude oil. You saw we kept floating around with that 75 and a half, and finally yesterday we broke them. And we broke them pretty hard, and look, we're even doing a further follow through. We're actually right into support. That support right there, we're looking on a 2 hour chart, right there, to right at 71.20. And we've already tagged 71.20 already. We are on the lower end on here. So we have gone and rolled into the September contract and take a look at Bitcoin. So a little bit of a bounce yesterday. We got that was actually our bias chart support at 31,578. Saw a nice little bounce back, formed a hammer. We're kind of pulling back a little bit. We'll see how we fared for the day. But wow, look at this bounce back here in Nasdaq. Very, very nice bounce back here. Obviously, because the ranges are so far, we're not seeing the individual numbers here, but obviously you can see the volume coming up in here and then where the bar closes. So it gives me a good indication. Generally, when I'm looking to see what these markets, if they're pushing higher, like in this case, you want them to go and make sure they hold above here. And obviously, we pushed even higher. So let's see how far we go. But boy, one of the things we've seen here, and I noted that from yesterday with the NASDAQ, it's less and less stocks that are providing that move higher. Here's Apple, another new all-time high. Microsoft, look at that, holy smokes. Amazon, Google, and Nvidia, Facebook, Netflix, Intel, Tesla. And for good measure, Peloton, PayPal. Still up here in the stars, but really it's the weighting of some of these big companies, as I mentioned, like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Apple, that is really holding this market up higher. Many of the other stocks that are in the index have actually been going lower, but it's the weighting that keeps that market up there. So with that, we'll go on and move into the analysis. So the euro rebounded on the release of the PPI, accompanied with Powell's testimony that the Fed would remain accommodative. Obviously, gone and saw a good little turnaround here in the euro. You can see that from yesterday. Resistance for Thursday will be 1852, with support at 1805. So 1852. We're not too far away from that. 1805. And I was actually looking at the 2 hour chart. And you see this coming right across there? That's where it came up with 1852. You see right there? That body. And that confluences with this body and these bricks right there. And that one. So 1852. So let's go move into the cable. So cable closed positive for the session. You can see that right here. Closed positive for the session on Wednesday, although fading from the highs of the day. You can see that it will pair back. Resistance for Thursday will be 38.66 with support at 38.04. Well, we're keeping them a pretty tight range today. So 38.04, 38.66. Still remains bearish. Let's go move in now to the Aussie dollar. Also saw a little bit of a turnaround. Actually, it engulfed it here too. Aussie session on Wednesday engulfed the prior bar. You can see that right here, bullish engulfing bar. Resistance for Thursday is going to be remain the same, which is going to be 75.07 with support at 74.38. And boy, are we in a tight range. Look at this. And moving into the Dalian. So the Dalian posted a retreat on Wednesday on the backdrop of Powell's testimony, as I mentioned, as we all know, is going to continue to remain accommodative, and that they do expect inflation is transitory. Support on Thursday will be 962 with resistance at 1019. High yesterday actually turned out to be 1069, so this is right down the money. Resistance is going to be 1019. And same thing with the 1019. I derived that by taking a look at the 2-hour chart. See that coming across here, these bodies? That's where it came up with that. And I'll mark that off so we can see that. You know, I like to go with the bodies, and if it confluences with some wicks, so much the better. See that? Body, 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 wick. That's what we're calling with 1019. Moving on to the cash dollar index. So the dollar index posted a dark cloud cover. You can see that right here. On Wednesday, following Powell's testimony, support for Thursday will be 91.15, which I meant to say 92.15, not 91. With resistance at 92.61, and boy, are we in a very tight session. So 92.15. And Powell's testimony put the kibosh to any further up moves. Well, look at that NASDAQ. It is still going hard. Actually, I was short and I covered in Asia and got a very nice fill. So I was pretty happy about that. I'm glad I didn't jump back on it again. Hang on a minute. So 92.61. And with that, we're going to move into Bitcoin. YouTube. So Bitcoin successfully defended the bias chart support of 31 578. You can see that that was our bias chart support position. If we broke, we had stops to take us to the 29,204. Rebounding to 33,000. Resistance on Thursday will be 33,826. And support will be 32,948. And that's, you see, we're at 32,394. So we're actually falling a little bit lower. So we're going to actually get to adjust this lower here. Let's take a look at that 2-hour chart. Yeah, I thought we might going to hold right there. You see right there, that's what's coming up that. But look, you see here, it needs to hold this area right there, which is 32, right there, 32,326. I'll mark that off for us. So you see what I'm looking at? See? 32,326. Needs to hold that. Let's go move into the S&Ps. So the S&P futures rallied to new highs, but closed lower. It closed in the lower area of the session's range, and you can see that here. But here we are, pushing up here again. Resistance is going to be 43.70, followed by 43.76. So 43.70, we're just about there. And support's going to be 43.50, followed by 43.42. There we go. And take a look at NASDAQ. We are really pushing up here. And I went yesterday. We talked about this. I actually kept saying I wasn't going to short it, but late in the afternoon I did. When we were going back up in here, and I had shown here on the profile, and I shared that too in the chat room. I actually shared it also on Twitter. And we were up against at 14,936, and the market already come back. We've been floating down here, and we know we were the significance of the 14,913. So as we pressed up here, I actually shared that. I actually got short right there at the value area high. Covered it as we pulled back down here. As we came back in this area, then I reshorted again. I think I went real quickie, and I was able to get out. But then in Asia, as soon as they opened up the electronic session, I immediately sold it. And then it took a dip, but it kind of came back up again. And then I was able to cover when we took down this dip here. I think I covered it like, I think it was 79. 79, and we got as low as 74. You see that? And look, then here we are moving higher again. And I'm surprised we're to this extent. But anyway, let me go move this all the way. but it was acting really tired yesterday. I mean, it was like, and Apple was kind of like acting like it was tired, but here we are reasserting ourselves again. That being said, let's take a look. What are we on here? We're on a 30-minute. So let's go back to this again. I was actually doing some what do you call maintenance work on the computer before, and I was going to reset the computer, but then the webinar was going to start, and I didn't want to get things delayed, but I did lose track of time. So right now, this is the RTA, regular trading hours, versus the full session. So yesterday's regular trading hours, that puts us at 14,960. So that's going to be resistance. And actually, that's where we're at right now. We got up as high as 14, actually right there, 14,960. So you can see here, right there, regular trading hours, value area high, 14,960. And then beyond that, I'm not going to short this because, but that's a good little area right there, the 14,960. And then beyond that would be 14,982. But you can see we got right to this 14,960, and here we are kind of paring back, not much, but I'm just saying that's a good area, that 14,960 to sell into if you were long, and we just got as high as 14,5925. I did go with that, which is 14,982. Let's see here. On the downside, $14,845. Followed by 783. Now let's go move into the gold market. So, as I mentioned, we've been talking about that gold and the value weighted average price, the VWAP from the March lows. Here's the March lows, and this was supportive, then it became resistance, and then you can see right here, 3 times they challenged that 1818, it held up there, and then finally once we got above it, and I've been saying for almost well over a week, was a daily close above 1824 opens a move to 1873, and that's what we're looking for. That being said, so gold was able to break above the resistance of 1818 to close at 1824. Resistance for Thursday will be 1834 with support at 1818, because then what was resistance will not be support. And we're beginning to see the first signs of bullishness. There we go. And lastly, it's going to move into crude. As I mentioned, we have done the rollover to the September contract. So crude sold off on Wednesday, breaking below the $73 mark, taking out the 3 prior sessions. That is the daily sessions. Support for Thursday will be 71.20. You can see right where we went to and where I came up with that. Look at the 2-hour chart. And actually, we've rallied off of that. Look, we've rallied 68 cents. We're at 71.88 now. So 71.20. With resistance at 72.94. We can take a look at a profile to see if we see something there. Yesterday's pop, this is interesting, is at 72.39. And look at the volume weighted average, not volume weighted average price, but the volume point of control is right there. And that comes in at 72.65. So let's go with 72.65. And there we have it. There's the bias chart. We'll get that out and post it into the chat room. And today's going to be rather interesting. This takes me by surprise. I did not expect us to be pushing back up here again. I'm just going with that 14.913. We know that that has actually already reached that 161%. So to have us pushing is a bit of a surprise. It'd be interesting and key because it's Thursday. Because if we could have seen some follow through, or we call on the profiles acceptance at lower prices, that would open the door for us to push lower. But instead we're seeing this market push back higher. So today will be interesting. Thanks a lot, Irina. And with that, we'll get this posted into the room. And thanks all for joining us here on the European Crossover.